Recording started.
What's up, everybody? My name is B-Max, aka Brandon, alongside Chris. This is episode 7 of the Anime Dojo. Tonight we're going to be going through Hell's Paradise episode 9 and Demon Slayer episode 9 as well. Before that, though, me and Chris last weekend went to A-kon32 episode 32, which is the anime convention here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. One of the longest running anime conventions, one of the largest in the United States. So we're going to go give our recap of how the weekend went, what we did. So as you're getting up Hell's Paradise, we're going to get into this conversation right now. Chris, my first question. This is your second time going to A-kon. What would you rate? What was your biggest takeaway from this year's A-kon?
Man, I got to say, being able to be out there for the full of this time, it was an absolute joyous experience, man. From the phone party to the engagements with the other cosplayers, and being able to find books and DVDs and posters of all of my favorite shows, just and that not only just anime shows, but shows outside of anime. So it was a great experience, man. I can't wait to go again next year.
Same. I didn't. This is my first year doing the full experience, even though I've been about 8 times prior. I will say that I think one of the bigger takeaways from me so far was the phone party. That was one of the most interesting and very just fun things you saw all weekend. Super fun, super simple. People just out there having fun, getting to hear DJs play. And it just kicked off that weekend in that right way of just people having fun. My next question
for you, B-Mac.
Go ahead.
How did you enjoy that phone party? Was that your first phone party?
That was my first. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's out of everything they do on Thursday nights, between that, the masquerade ball, the costume ball, or the cosplay ball, I think the phone party is just the most fun thing you can do, because you don't really need to have formal wear. You don't really need to be in this really elaborate outfit. You can just have fun, just dancing around, talking to the cosplayers and people. And oddly enough, me and Chris had a good conversation with a couple that was out there, just kind of who lives in the area, and he was asking about everything, and they were kind of intrigued. And people were intrigued all weekend, wouldn't you say, Chris? Because a lot of people who probably don't know what's going on were like, "Huh, this is interesting," and asked why.
I think it was a great experience for the people in the local area, especially those who probably aren't used to seeing a lot of people in cosplay. They're going to ask a lot of questions. Some people might feel unsafe because of the extremities and the weapons that people may drive. But I mean, once they understand, you get the people to ask questions that really want to know, they become intertwined in the community just like that.
Correct. Out of everything you did over the weekend, and I'm only going to ask for your top 2 things. What were the top 2 things that really just made you smile? That's all I'll say.
So besides the phone party that stood out, especially for that being one of his opening events, some of the panels that were absolutely amazing to experience. Like Brandon, you showed me the VTubers. Before then, I had no idea that was up, and let alone people that's making a whole career out of it. But it was great to see, and then they were funny. So shout out to those VTubers. I'm sorry, my memory is bad on the names, but I remember the scientist girl, the wolf girl, the lowly girl, and then the guy, the bunny guy. So it was.
So what he's speaking of is Ichiban, is what their name is. It's Buff Pup, Rose Doodle, AI Candy, and Shia Bunny. They're a group of VTubers that are now one group. They were still one group prior to this, but they made their own independent group together, have merch, all that kind of stuff. And so on Saturday night, 11 o'clock at night. So I'm going to preface this. 11 o'clock at night. So basically after 9, everything gets kind of adult, wouldn't you say, Chris? And this is where pretty much these panels can be more adult. No kids around, no younger kids. You have to be 18 and older. And pretty much for this panel, it was anything goes. The name of the panel was VTubers Get You Laid. Basically, just kind of having fun, asking. You can ask whatever you want, so anime style. And I think I've never laughed so much at the same time. Just been kind of watching Chris's face. Was like he's just kind of like, wow, that was different.
Yeah. Like, I want to go on a note that's saying the A-kon is a family event.
Yes.
However, it's, for all your parents out there, just be conscious of what you would want your kids to see and not see. I will put it that way.
Correct.
And obviously, wouldn't have your child after outdoors on after 9, 10 o'clock. So yeah. I do have one more special shout out to a panel that I experienced. That panel was the psychology of anime. Man, shout out to his name. I believe I got his contact information. His name was William Nation, working at the Texas Women's University. Good guy. He was very insightful.
Explain, for somebody who didn't go to the panel myself, explain more about the panel, because you kind of explained it to me when we were at the con. What was the purpose of that panel? He's from Texas Women's University, so he must be a professor, so he has some knowledge of psychology and that kind of stuff.
So this panel focused on the psychology of certain anime characters. Like his favorite that to start off was with Vegeta. Okay. Somebody who's clearly psychotic, and this dude has killed multiple races, and now he's a father figure. Like that kind of transformation. Like, and then for him to be able to hide that kind of past to his children and his wife, and no longer do that. So he's literally living with the sins of his past, but he feels no remorse towards it. So, and then that pride, which is also his biggest strength, is also his biggest downfall. So, things like that.
Okay, when you mentioned to me, we didn't really go in depth about it, but now you're telling me that, I like that idea because you're actually looking at the psychology of the character itself. You're understanding why the character is what they are, but at the same time, is that good or bad for what they've become? So I kind of like that.
Depends on the character.
Yeah, depends on the character. So I like that kind of like deep dive. That's not something you don't really see very often. One of my other honorable mentions for this weekend, and it's something I didn't expect to be as good as it was going to be. That Street Fighter tournament on Saturday afternoon was amazing. 53 of some of the players in the Dallas Fort Bear, and even outside of that, maybe just come together and just play Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 had just launched that Friday. I mean, I wasn't expecting to do well. I got 2 matches in, but you saw people really, really come out for that. I hope A-kon brings back tournaments because those tournaments bring people out. I mean, Street Fighter was a new game, so they kind of did a special thing for it. But I think you should bring back the old tournaments of Street Fighter or Tekken or something big as that, because it helps it helps just kind of bring that community out more to something like A-kon. Even though you're not an anime fan, you still have the gaming side of things that will bring people out. Speaking of that, you do have gaming, you have cosplay, you have the dealer room, you have panels. There's so much stuff to do, and it's not just focused on one thing. We even saw, I think me and Chris saw a lot of characters from just their old TV shows. We saw a couple do characters from SpongeBob. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. It's the older superheroes from the show.
Boy and,
Mermaid Man?
I believe it. Barnacle Boy. Yeah, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Barnacle Boy. That was a really just cool, nostalgic cosplay that was not anime based, but it was just cartoon based, and something you would never normally see. But it's like, that's like showing the history of something that's been around for a long time. I'm gonna ask you this, Chris, because we took a lot of pictures of the weekend, me and you both. What was the coolest cosplay that you saw over the weekend?
Oh man, shout out! Lord, see, I didn't get her name. Shout out to the young woman who did Inosuke. I mean, she literally had that had that cosplay down to a T. From the blue contacts to the short hair, pretty face, torn pants, and it was with the loincloth and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And man, Bandage, bro, she really went all out.
I saw that one. I have to give another Demon Slayer cosplay their due. It was a lady I saw in the game room. Drew saw this character with me. She was dressed as Nezuko. She was a shorter person, on the shorter side of a person, but she fit the character so well because she did the long black hair, the kimono, the shoes, she put the horn, everything. It looked amazing. Um, me and you both saw people doing Hell's Paradise. Two ladies that did Gabimaru and the monitor. That looked amazing. We even saw somebody do King Julian from Madagascar, and that kind of just
Yes.
that was just insane. Looked really
Shout out to the many cosplayers who did Ash Ketchum.
yes. There's a lot of Ash Ketchum, a lot of Rengoku and Zenitsu, and even Tanjiro. There was even, I think at one point I saw a lot of Tengen still around, walking around the cosplay around the convention. So a lot of people still Demon Slayer still probably tops right now, and that's just because Demon Slayer's gotten popular. But there were so many good cosplayers. Um, then I have two more questions, but my second last question is going to be this: is there anything that you wish you could have done while we were there?
I wish I had more money to attend the other classes, such as like the mold making or
Yeah, there was a 3D printing class as well, I think.
yeah, like yes, yes, the 3D printing class was awesome. So now I
Um,
know for next year to pay for those classes in advance.
yes. Yes, there's classes for everything. Cosplay, repair, learning about, learning about how to, sew. There's so much stuff that they've added this year. Um, I'm gonna piggyback off something you did actually pay for. You went to the Maid Cafe on Saturday night before the VTuber panel, which they did a special escape room.
Yes,
Explain
layer of the
that
demon.
escape room. Correct. Explain that escape room because it was there last year actually. He did it because the tickets sell out pretty fast for that, and that's something I want to do on my list next year. Explain the escape room and what you thought about it. Is it something you would do again next year?
So if any of our listeners have ever done an escape room, yeah, of course, because of the setup they had, they couldn't do a very elaborate escape room where it's a lot of physical activity. However, the maze of the layer of the demoness really took their time to plan a really good escape based off of decision making and a few table puzzles that were really nice and well put together. And as a side note, yes, it was an 18 and up play experience where they I'm not going to say they were 100% new, but there were some chest areas that were exposed. But other than that, it was a good escape experience. Although
And
love the escape.
yeah, I will say I've never really done an escape room in my life. I know the premise of like the bigger escape rooms you see around town is like they have all these puzzles and things, and you have to go through different rooms. This is like you said, it's confined to one room basically, and you're doing a lot of stuff within that one room, which I think would probably hurt it, but in this case, it makes it more interesting because they do a lot more of like you say, little puzzles on tables, and then more like thinking through things. Um, I that's one, I think if anything, that's the one thing I would have wished I could have done. But like I say, it sold out pretty fast. It sold out. It's one of the fastest selling things they sell. They sell out almost every year. But the only other thing I want to mention, the only thing I was going to ask about, if there's two things. If you had to rate this con, what would you give the rating? And if you're a first time goer, what would you tell a first time goer they should do when they at the con?
I'm going to answer those in reverse. For
Okay.
our first time, don't be weird. I mean, that's what I will say. Don't be weird. You'll see a lot of cosplayers, and you can just ask them nicely if you can take their pictures. That's one thing. Then with that being said, have some money in your pocket, because if you're any type of fan, I can't even say just an anime fan, but if you're any type of fan, go with some money in your pocket, because there are going to be things you want to buy.
Yes.
To our parents, please be aware that they do have some materials that are adult rated. However, there's nothing there that's so exposing.
No.
That you would be ashamed of. But my rating for this anime, episode 32, I will give it a solid A-.
Ooh. Okay. Explain why, because that's about an 80, so 88, 85, 88, somewhere in there. Why the B?
I wish I would have known more beforehand of the classes that had costed. Like we didn't know about events until a week prior. But I feel that the events that if you needed extra money for, you should have known at least a month prior.
So I will say I agree with you with all that. Now the escape room you did, that was up almost 3 weeks prior. So that was up a long time, because it's in the add-on. Like when you register for the con, it's in the add-on tab. It's like a special thing in the add-on tab that you can do. There's a couple different things in there. Things like doing the like the sculpting and all that kind of stuff. Those were not in there. So those you'd have to do them on the fly. I agree with you. I kind of wish they do have them all listed in the add-on tab, or if there's something you're going to have to pay for eventually, maybe within that week before, add them to the add-on tab so you can pay for them prior. They did that with the Street Fighter tournament. That went to the add-on tab right after they announced it, so I paid for that right away. So you kind of can prepare and, like you say, figure out what you need to do. I think the other thing I do agree. The other thing I will say, I like this year's layout. I don't know what you thought about the layout, because your last year's layout was kind of weird. I think this year's layout for the con overall was a lot better.
Speaking as a first time, it was an experience with the layout, because I know last year it felt a lot compacted. I think last year they gave most of the vendors and dealers more freedom of what they could do with their stalls, which ended up costing a lot of extra room.
Correct.
So this year, not only did they double down on the strictness of the size of the booths and everything, they also made it where it's a lot easier flow for traffic.
Correct. I did see one thing online that was kind of interesting, that somebody felt like there were not enough in Artist Alley. There's not a lot of artists. Did they kind of lose a couple artists, or did something change? I don't know how you felt about that, because we walked through Artist Alley a couple different times and we didn't feel like it was not there. It was less artists overall. They were more close together. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I thought that was kind of weird.
I mean, my personal opinion on that is, first of all, it is just an opinion that you got to cut people slack. There are some people that can make it. Some people that are coming from yearly, like they're international people. Sometimes flights get made, get
Yep.
missed.
Oh
Things
yeah.
are unavoidable. And then you have to understand that those artists that are there, they're also doing panels. So in
Yes.
between panels and doing signing in the artist alley, like they called it, you really just have to have caught them at a good time. So yeah.
I think the one big change I would say that really I think was a good change. I like the fact that the camera was on the fourth floor, and it was mixed of the video game stuff, but also the D&D and tabletop gaming. So that whole space was used for that. Which in the past, that last year they had, or the year, yeah, last year they had the voice actors up there for autographs, which they didn't really need all that space anyway. And then the one huge panel. Um, so I think that's kind of a change that they made, putting voice actors down at the bottom in the dealing room, everybody else, and then kind of having this. You have the more all that in one place, and then you have everything else on third and second. So the panels on your third, and game rooms on your second. Then a couple panels in the West End. I did a Saturday morning panel. That was the other VTubers panel, which is more family friendly panel. That was in the West End, and they got all those off-site panels, and then pretty much everything else stayed within there. I think the only thing they used the Texan for the pool party, which didn't really mean much, and then the concert was at the pavilion. The only other thing I would add to the first timer thing, and you hit the nail on the head perfectly. The only thing I would add, be mindful of your budget, because I think for me, I always have a set budget around 250, and then I have extra money for food purposes. So yes, the dealer room had a lot of good stuff in it. Yes, a lot of it can be very reasonable, but some of it can be pricey. So what me and Chris did, on Friday we looked around, see things that we really want, and then Saturday we went back and bought the things that we actually wanted. Would you say that was helpful, Chris, more or less?
Absolutely. That everything you said was spot on. Especially that's where it goes for new and returning
Yes.
fans to A-kon. And overall, that's just really good advice on traveling. So yes, I agree.
And if you are traveling this con, I think the other big thing is just make sure you do everything in advance. So hotel in advance, accommodations, all that kind of stuff, just so you have it ready. As of today's the last day to do it. They do early bird pricing, which is $60 plus tax, about $70 for next year's con. They always do it the day after the con is over, or that evening through Tuesday, and then that price will stay about the same for a bit until it goes up somewhere in the middle or end of the year. And then once we get to the beginning of next year, it goes up again. So plan ahead, buy the tickets early. I've always done that, just kind of that way you have them, you don't have to worry about it. And then from there, you can just start saving up for next year's con. But the last thing I'm going to say about it, it's my personal grade for it. I would have to go B plus or B plus A area. I agree with everything Chris said. I think the only thing I would say is the same thing. If there's some things you want to do that have money attached to them, or panels, or like special cool experiences, I wish they could tell you those in advance. But you don't know who's going to bail or not be there, so you don't want to say something and then something else changes and you paid for it already. But yeah, that's our recap for A-kon32. We are definitely going back next year. A-kon episode 33 is going to be next year. They're going to keep making it bigger and better. And I think after being in Irving for almost 2 years now, it's been one of the better areas they've done it in. One thing we didn't mention, and we forgot to, but we didn't think about it, there's a bunch of food places around there and other little amenities So if you really want to find, good food outside the convention, there's a bunch out there to try. And I think he'll agree with this. The one I'll mention is a taco shop in that area, which was very good. We also did Yard House one night. That was very good. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff out there. If you're looking for good food, you can't go wrong.
Shout out to the taco place. Oh my god, I'm going back.
Because it was
when I say
like
I'm going
that was
back, I'm going this weekend.
yeah. That's nothing you have to worry about. I think me and Chris said all weekend we barely spent $40 a day on food for lunch and dinner outside hotel breakfast, which hotel breakfast is kind of more expensive, but you get a lot more for that. So you're gonna find decent stuff out there. But let's go from that just to a change of gears. We're about to head into Hell's Paradise episode 9. We watched this at the con Saturday night. This episode does so much stuff. I'm not gonna spoil anything. We'll go through it as we're watching. Chris, when you watched the episode the first time, what did you think?
Oh my god! They're giving us everything that we've been asking for. I swear the makers of that were tapping into the energy that we were putting out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave us a lot of answers this episode. You'll see them throughout, and it's like they're ramping it up to. We started the series at like maybe a 4 or 5. By the time we get to episode 5 or 6, they went up to like a 7 or 8, or 6 or 7. Now we're probably at 8 or 9, and we're almost to a 10. So I'm gonna give the 3, 2, 1.
Which means it's almost coming to a close. Wait, whoa. Let me get it up for you.
No worries. Take your time. I will say this. This is probably a good mix of action and storytelling. And it does it in a way where it's not overly one-sided. It's a good blend. But it's like they do things that they do things that they expect to get answers for, and now we're getting a lot more answers. So I hope you do get the episode up and ready. Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm gonna give the 3, 2, 1, and let's get into this. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Out like a light.
And she asked, "I can keep watch. You need to rest." And he's like, "No, I'm right."
Yeah, I feel better. I gotta take a bath. It said no whenever.
Yep.
And while this is playing, I'm going to try to find this on Spotify.
I already have it on Spotify. It's called what's the band called? Hold on. I can look it up for you. So the song is called Works. WORK. Or Work, sorry.
Probably gonna have to find that artist.
Okay. I love the fact that the other monitor says you can't go alone because it's too dangerous. But Gabriel Amaro's like, I can't wait. I need to do this. Do this now.
There it is again.
Yep.
Remind them how dangerous it's about to get.
By the way, that door there is from the intro. We've seen this door for every intro of the show. We just know what it was.
And yet we still don't know what's behind it.
Correct. You know the funny part? At first, she didn't want to fight. That kick. Jeez. Burned her to a
She
crisp.
literally sits her whole body.
Yeah.
Or so we think.
Yeah, so we think.
Body went from female to male.
In a transformation.
I That's a fair question.
I love the camera work in this because they're just moving at this like so fast to the point where it doesn't even feel like they're like moving at all.
I think that's massive for you because we've seen those same kind of camera angles in Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen.
Correct. And that's the first time we've seen him bleed.
Yes, it is. If for some reason she goes back to the female body.
Correct.
Here we go. Left for another cliffhanger.
Oh.
Come on with the key blast.
Yep. And you know the funny part about that energy? She spent it like a ball to create it out of nothing.
He did. Just like Rasengan.
Yes. And they should, and that's why I'm like, the little girl just did it through a punch. That's what they just showed. And he just goes like 1,000 hand slaps and just knocks her out pretty much.
No, he really decimates her.
Yeah, he did. He doesn't. He destroys her.
He beats her to the point to where she almost can't regenerate.
Correct. I'm gonna get in trouble.
And she becomes some kind of flower beast.
Correct. They can spark electricity.
Now, how do you defend against electricity?
You don't.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those moments that if he had a sword or a knife, he would probably be a little bit more effective.
Correct. But he does have his fires.
The weed. True. But we know that he thinks that that's still ineffective right now.
Correct.
Ooh.
So now he's
Talk
paid the
about bad
price.
timing.
He's paid the price for pushing too hard.
Their house is actually well decorated.
Yes, it is. It is very well decorated. I do love the fact every time he's had some kind of problem, he always thinks back to his wife.
It shows how much he truly loved her.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact he was gonna die, and he was just happy to talk to his wife one last time.
And then we see this. Let them flames go. Shout out for Crunchyroll, because even if the audio is not in 5.1, my subwoofer is still rumbling from that scene.
Yes, it is. I can hear it through my headphones. Which is the name of the little girl, and she just is like this bubble thing to save him.
Yeah.
At first, he's gonna leave the man and not care, and then the tree said, "Oh, we can take you through the forest." And she's like, "Okay." I'm like,
And
what?
all of a sudden,
Yep. You think they did? He literally jumped out of there.
And then he pops out of nowhere,
Yep.
looking pissed.
Yep. He's mad.
Oh, she lied.
Oh yeah, she
I
does
didn't
lie,
realize that. She lied.
and she doesn't tell him about the little girl.
Right.
I thought that was funny. She just says a leaf. What the?
Really kind of sad, but and then the fact that he's about to share the same fate,
Yeah.
despite being immortal himself.
Yeah.
See, she somewhat cares about him.
Yeah, she does care. But that's after what happened at the bath.
True. Ooh, boy.
Man, okay. Where do we start? I'm gonna start with this actually. And you brought it up halfway through the episode. When we see the 7 gods that are actually one god. The one that Getmaro was fighting, she lies about Getmaro being dead. Why?
Well, and we did see where she knows the girl. She knows the little girl.
Correct. We saw, so she knows the little girl,
There has
which
to
is
be something.
like, it's so interesting that she would lie knowing the fact they could find out. Knowing the fact the head of that family probably knows the little girl already.
Theory. You have a theory.
Okay.
What if that girl is the original one god? Now all of those other gods come from her.
And she's only manifested as a child? That could be a point.
She's manifested as a child because she's given away so much of herself.
Her power?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay.
Just a theory.
I could see it. Let's rewind back to the beginning. I wanted to start off with that because that was the most interesting out of this episode. Let's rewind to the beginning. So we start this episode off basically right where the previous episode ends for the most part, where the monitor that has the glasses pretty much says, I know all this. I have all this information about this now, but my brain is like, his brain was fried pretty much. She was overloaded with information. And so Gedmaru's monitor was like, hey, I can take watch for you. Don't worry about it. And he's like, I'm all right. Don't worry about it. I can do it. And then he falls out. He's basically out like a light. And then Gedmaru's like, I can't wait anymore. I just have to go. What do you think about that beginning? Because
which I can't laugh. But I think they set the stage because, I think the last thing we saw before then was, them walking in the mist. So they probably rewinded a little bit or fast forward a little bit, had a conversation or two, and then pretty much after that, then we kind of see where they're at now.
Correct. The other big thing from this beginning part is we saw that Gedmaru was willing to take his time. He was like, I have my focus back. I know what I need to do. But then after the monitor was like, they're too dangerous. They could hurt you. But Gedmaru was like, I just need to get this done and we can get out of here. Do you think Gedmaru is losing his way again?
No, I think he's still relying on himself. I mean, there's no accurate way to, like, he hadn't seen the Tenzin before.
Correct.
So he didn't exactly know how strong they were. So with that being said, he probably just thought, maybe I can just go ahead and get this done real quick.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Then we get to this red door. We've seen this red door before, like I mentioned while watching the episode. And Gedmaru is about to open the door. Then one of the Tenzin comes after him. We've seen this lady before. This lady was fighting the blind monitor and the girl and the guy that died in the previous episode. What do you think about this? She comes up on Gedmaru and doesn't really want to fight him. She's kind of like, I don't want to deal with this. I've already dealt with something. She kind of felt like, she's like, I just want to rest.
See, there's something special about that particular Tenzin. And the thing that was probably on her mind beforehand was probably because she didn't finish off the last two. She killed
Correct.
one of them, but she wasn't able to finish off the last two because they ran.
Correct.
And just like the end of the episode, that higher up guy, he kind of put two and two together, or somehow he knew that that the job wasn't finished.
Correct. So then they have one of the most epic battles we've seen in this show so far. I don't know. I don't know where Mappa got this battle. They've done Attack on Titan. They've done Jujutsu Kaisen. This battle was just amazing. Back and forth action,
It really
not
was.
nonstop. Nothing. No, like stop it. No, like no slowing down. It just kept going.
I mean, that was an absolute brawl.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and that's the thing. It was no like. It was no like. Oh, they everybody hits one move, then somebody hits another move, back and forth, kind of thing. It's all out, just punching and just like destroying each other. And then at one point, I don't know what you. The first time we saw the scene, it was kind of weird. What did you think about the Gagmaro burning her to a crisp? And literally, like, just using his ninjutsu and burning her. Because when we first saw that scene, we were both like, oh, wow, that was kind of extreme.
I mean, again, that was his first time seeing the sentence, so and he was actually caught off guard too because I got to stop saying he or she because that is it because the
Yeah.
way they transform. But anyway,
Yeah,
the way
the way they transform back and
Maru
forth.
took that hit, yeah, yeah. Like Gabriel Moore, he was caught by surprise because he probably thought that was the end of it, but he came back and squarely hit him in the gut and threw him up against whatever type of castle wall that was. So,
Correct.
and then from then on, that's when it was just an absolute brawl.
And then we get a thing where they go back and forth for a good 5 minutes. Maybe I say 5 minutes, it might have been shorter than that, but it felt 5 minutes. And then the scene that really hit home to me throughout the fight is this one thing where Gagmaro punches the thing in the stomach. And literally, the Tencent was like, kind of like keeled over for a second. And this is the first time you've seen this. It squirts blood out of his mouth. So they actually are human. They have human organs and all that kind of stuff. Even though we've only seen the flowers and everything. Um, my question is, do you think that's because she was losing the ability to use the elixir?
Possibly.
Because the elixir of life was her like
Cause
lifeblood. That's a
because this is the thing we have to pay attention to. In the previous episodes, the tree said that he drank some of the elixir and it gave him one type of power.
correct.
And at the end, we see him drinking the elixir again, and her youthfulness comes back.
Correct.
But furthermore, if we pay attention to what the tree was actually saying, is that those Tensen used to be the old monks.
Yes. They used to be the old monks of the village and like the god, basically the like priests of the village. Yeah.
Right. Which means they came from somewhere. And just like Gabriel Moore said, they can die.
Yes. Then the fight continues. She's getting annoyed. She's finally like, I'm just going to transfer him to this big flower thing. And then he gets destroyed by lightning. So much lightning to the point where, like, he's on the brink of death. And he has two flashbacks. The first is his wife. And I thought this flashback was so sweet because he goes, she brings him. He says he has a night. The signs of nightmare. And they go to a flashback where he wakes up from a nightmare. His wife brings him tea. She said this tea might help you with your nightmares. And then he looks out the window, looks back at her, and just stares at her for a second. And then she goes, "You don't like the tea?" And he's like, "No. I'm just glad I could talk to you." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And then they flash back to him on the actual island. And he's like, "If I die, at least I got to talk to you." I thought that scene was so powerful. I don't know what you thought, because I think it's showing that he's getting more and more human. Or human emotions.
I mean, this is where I go back to Dante's Inferno, because as Dante goes through the 7 layers of hell, he slowly starts to realize some of the bad things that he's done, and in doing so, he feels more and more guilt. But in that, and he's finding later on in Divine Comedy, as he travels through purgatory, he starts to find his own redemption and to come to a realization that, yes, I did these things, but now that I'm only repenting from, I'm learning to forgive myself and loving myself. Do you see the balancing into?
He forgives what he's done and is now trying to repent for his sins.
Exactly.
But then he's on the brink of death. He's wrapped up in this Tensen's fiery power. Then the next flashback we see is the chief. And the chief goes, remember rule number 20. If you're on the brink of death, use all your power to do one last attack. And that's what Gabimaru exactly does. He channels all his fire energy into one last attack to burn off the hands of the Tencent demon. He's laying there pretty much out of it. And then out of nowhere, the little girl walks in, sticks her hands out long ways and goes and makes a bubble for both of them, and they roll down the mountain. And then you hear the Tencent go, Mia, what are you doing? So she knows who she is. I wonder if that, like you say, if that's one of one of the other beings that used to be the head of the beings, the main one. And now she's just left them for no reason.
Right.
And then
she lied at the end.
Yeah, she lies to the rest of the beings at that meeting, and then after the meeting, where we meet the rest of the beings, I like by the way, I like the visual of all these other beings. 3 of them have flowers on their head, different colors: a yellow, a red, and a purple. One's mainly female, one's mainly male. We've seen the mainly male and the mainly female one before, the yellow-haired and the pink-haired one. We've seen them in that. I think it's episode 6. Where they're in that tree just kind of doing their thing when the 2 brothers walking on them. But then I love when the head of the family comes and says, you can't beat her up. Only I can do that. And by the way, you didn't handle your problem. And she handled hers. So you can't be too upset when Gabimaru, at least he killed Gabimaru, which he also lies about. Do you
Man.
think? Do you think? Do you think we're gonna get a final either? I don't know, the end of this season or early in the beginning of next season. I'm gonna assume the end of this season. We're gonna get like a final battle with all the Tencents fighting the people left on the island.
Mm,
Or
possibly.
like a teaser of a final battle. I don't think we're getting the actual final battle because there's not.
No, I do see us getting a epic battle, but I also see them leaving us on the biggest cliffhanger that they can muster out of this anime.
Until season 2. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. By the way, as we're talking, I hope you're getting. Go ahead and get Demon Slayer episode 9 up, or get to that shortly. This was a lot from this episode. We're just trying to go through the bits. This episode was jam packed. They did a good job. Then at the end of this, we see everybody that's left show up. We see the two brothers. The blonde-haired brother is carrying his other brother out of that pit, and he looks pissed. He's about to fight somebody.
Man.
And he don't care what he has to do to fight that person. Then we see the former master and the young girl. And she's holding a sword, and he hands her that sword. And he shakes his head no. You had a theory the night we were watching this. You were like, maybe she's gonna teach him. He's gonna teach her how to use a sword. And that would be
still think that.
And that'd be kind of awesome if that was the case. Because that's like passing on the
freaking awesome.
That'd be passing on the teaching that he taught. What's his name? So that'd be great. And then the last thing,
he knows how much she.
Yeah, she cared a lot for him. That's absolutely right.
So with that being said, she wants revenge, and I think he's gonna help her get that revenge.
Correct. And the last thing we see is Gebmoro and the little girl on this like shoreline from this river, kind of out. And then Gebmoro wakes up and says, "Who saved me?" "Oh, it's the little girl." "Why did she do that?" And then he turns around and we see the guy that's lost his hand and the other monitor walk up on them. And the guy who lost his hand's like, "Wait, you're that bandit, or you're that guy," basically. And he goes, "Well, now you're gonna die." I'm like, really? The man's been through a lot. They've barely escaped. You've lost your hand. Are we really gonna have a fight? And then that's where the episode ends. Basically, all the people that left are trying to find their way. We have the main team. They're trying to find Gavin Morrow and the little girl. We have the brothers just trying to get out of the pit and heading towards the Tencent, wherever they are. And you have this team here, found Gavin Morrow and the little girl, and the guy the monitor that the guy's watching wants to fight against Gavin Morrow to kill him. Wow, if the cliffhanger lives on, I'm thinking they're going to start off with a fight next week.
I hope so. If it's not with a fight, it's definitely going to be a hardcore conversation.
Because all that dude's probably thinking, he's like, if I can take him out, I'm in a better spot than I was.
That part.
What do you give this episode as a grade? And why?
I give it a 9.8.
Ooh.
I give it a 9.8 because it gave me everything that I had been talking about in our previous episodes. It solved some mysteries and gave us some new ones, gave us an epic fight scene, where our main character almost dies but doesn't, which was an epic by itself. You gave
Correct.
us some mysteries to really ponder about. So yes, this episode gives a 9.8.
Okay.
I can't give it a perfect 10 because it's not the end of the season. I will wait.
Yes. 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 I agree with that. 9.8. I totally agree with everything you said. And one other mystery we got that actually is true now, and the tree confirmed it, and we've seen it now. That the elixir of life is a liquid. So it's something you drink. So I have to assume it's like this abundant nectar or whatever would it be that can be just used at any point. I'm assuming actually wherever they're sitting at that river is the elixir of life.
Mm.
Because if it's not abundant, it wouldn't be easy to just get and drink every time. Um,
But if it is a river, can you imagine how many bodies would have to have been there?
Hundreds.
Yes, or maybe even thousands.
And then the other thing that kind of broke my heart, and it was just something I didn't expect. When the tree says, we were prosperous for over 1,000 years. I have to feel those people. And then the Tencent came along and that prosperity stopped. So something happened between when before the Tencent and then right after Tencent came along. I hope we get that answer in this season, or at least a tease of that answer in this season. Because that's another mystery, but the good mystery. Why did the village crumble? What happened to the people originally? Why did why these village people lose their way? Lost everything because of Tencent. I have to say, Mappa, you've done a very good job of making an anime that's probably not something that people normally watch. Very interesting. And it's only episode 9. We still have 3 episodes
Very
left.
much so.
We have 3 episodes left, and you've made it very interesting. And I'll say this right now: I implore you, if you haven't watched Tales of Paradise yet, please do, because I think it's something. It's worth your time. I think up to now you could probably get through it and figure out what's going on. And I actually suggest you watch in English, because the English version will give you these answers in a way where it makes sense. I know I'm going to watch this episode back in English, absolutely. But let's change gears a little bit. Let's get into Demon Slayer episode 9. Another episode with a lot of action, a lot of storytelling. Chris, when you watched this episode the first time, what did you think?
When I first saw it, man, it was more of a shock and awe experience for me, man, because it was like, wow, they they went all in on the special effects and gave us an epic fight scene. I was just in awe. I think when I first watched it with you, I first thought they took a few lessons from Dragon Ball Z and put it in there.
Yeah. I will say this. This is another one of those story. This is one of those episodes where they stick with one side of the story for a bit at the beginning, but it has a satisfying conclusion, and then we get to the second fight in the back half. We'll see what happens as we go through it. I'm gonna give 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get into it. Chris, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. I love how it starts out where he's still working on that sword through everything that's happened.
Talk about due diligence.
that's due diligence. I love the fact he calls him brat. Like, you're a nobody. You're just a bratty kid. Still one of the best songs of this anime opening songs. Whew.
Man, with an epic opening sequence, man.
Yep. You're a very cocky demon.
Very much so.
You can think you win every time.
But he came back with his own cockiness. I love it.
Yep. I love what he did there. He was like, the face doesn't look symmetrical. And actually it does. But he's just making him mad.
It was enough to piss him off.
Yep. And he cuts through him like sushi.
Man. You thought.
That's disgusting.
Like the snake skin.
Yep. That's very funny.
Bro, I love his asshole with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another epic battle is about to start. I love that. He just looks up, smiles, and says, "You can't." That tag was pointless.
You know, that's the first time we've seen him smile.
Yes, it is, and they used it in the perfect way possible.
And I got to say, it was kind of creepy, though.
Yes, it was very creepy.
Gives credit to the animations. Like, if you look at their skin color, you can tell his brother's dead by how dark his skin is compared to his brother's.
Correct. This other skin's lighter, so his blood stopped moving.
Yep.
Man, he's moving like a mermaid, and the colors and my word.
Yes. How that deep blue is cutting through that red. That was beautiful.
Correct.
Ooh.
And the optical illusion.
It turned your quick movements into his own quick movements.
Yep.
Clean hit.
One
Dude
fail
didn't even have a
swoop.
chance to block it.
Nope.
It happened so fast he doesn't even know his head's just sliced off.
Correct. And he's like, I'm decapitated. I'm decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact he
In the
tries to
words
rebuild
of
his
Mortal
body.
Kombat.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. But in the words of Mortal Kombat, finish him.
Yep.
Here we go. Fatality.
And he does like a Mortal Kombat fatality. He's on his fish.
To the people who make Mortal Kombat, I think you found who your next character should be.
I wouldn't be opposed. I would not be opposed. That'd just take a lot of work. I mean, you'd have to make some things happen. But yes.
As big as a company as Mortal Kombat is versus how Demon Slayer is coming up, that probably wouldn't be too far as a stretch.
No.
If they don't put it in Mortal Kombat, at least put it in Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
I was like, he was watching in the background the entire time.
Yep.
Bro, this tired, fatigued look, they got it down.
Yeah. I love the fact he says you look really pale.
Now, why would you hit him and shake him? Like,
He's like foaming at the mouth.
you know how exhausted you have to be? Like, it's a good thing he's not spitting up blood.
Yep.
But the fact that you're frothing almost means like you're having a seizure.
He does that, and he's like, "Wait, who told me that?"
No. And he just waving his hand like, nah, bro, you got the wrong idea.
Oh, that saved his life.
Come on, you just had to lay the flower on the hand too.
Yes, you did.
Oh,
Jeez.
he's having a moment where he's on the brink of death and he sees it, but you know he's gonna be all right. Now back to this action.
And back to the depth of music, by the way. Well, that shotgun won't do nothing now.
Nah. What the heck is up with that strength up?
Yeah, he just like ripped that thing in half.
Ooh. Brother had his old foot and ankle twisted,
Yep.
and he's still running. Ooh. That adrenaline rush is real.
Yeah, it is. Nobody can do that.
And here we see him literally dodging lightning.
Yes.
That was some whole shit.
That was pretty cool.
Woo. And I know Nezuko feels like she can't do nothing either.
Nope. It ain't over.
Shout out to all the cosplayers who did the Love Hashira.
That whip sword. He can't hear a thing. His eardrums busted.
He really called her a hoe there.
Yep.
I had to look that up. He really just called her a hoe.
Yep.
I have one confession.
What?
I was so excited for the next episode after this. It came up as as a advertisement for on the Google News read for the next
Yeah,
episode, and I had no choice but to read it.
I saw that. I saw that it came up my Google News feed of the tease for next episode. I'm like, do I want to read this or do I skip it? I'm like, I'll just skip it because I don't want to spoil myself. But I did see like the pictures. So I'm like,
Yeah.
we're about to get to the epic battle, the epic ending battle.
Man, so I know what's going to happen, so don't ask me any questions about what's going to happen.
All
I
right,
couldn't help myself.
no worries. I will say this though. Between this and Hell's Paradise, you gave these two episodes gave us two epic fight scenes. Two epic fight scenes that weren't even. I don't think the one for Demon Slayer I wasn't expecting, but it was amazing. The colors, the motion, everything. But then on top of that, you hit us in the fields because Mujo's about to die, and he sees his family, and his family's like, "Hey, we're here for you. We know what happened." He says mom, he says father, and his brother puts his hand on his hand, and then you see the little flower. That was touching. Then on top of it all,
Man.
they do so much good within the emotions and the fight. The voice acting and the dialogue here is so good because I love the upper rank 5 where he's just kind of like he's just cocky. He's just kind of saying these to Mauricio. And what do you think about this? Mauricio just kind of gives him this rebuttal a couple times, and he's like, the upper rank demon's like, stop talking. So he does, like a good minute. He stopped talking, and the demon's like, why'd you stop talking? And I love Mauricio's response because you told me to. like you told me to. So
he was on it with those clips.
Yeah, he was. It was perfect. Then halfway through the battle, they have another little conversation, and like the demon does this attack, and the attack basically is like all these fish come at them. All these fish come at them with poison and everything. So I'm sure does misbreathing 6th form, I think what it was, to chop all the fish up. And the guy's like, you can chop them all up, but they're gonna still the poison's gonna be in the air, so it's gonna get through your skin. You know what Mauricio do? We're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make sure all these fish can't get near me. So he just like does another like misbreathing attack and just blows all the fish away. And the demon's like, "You seriously just blew all what?" I love that. Then I think the other one I'll let you explain because I thought this was kind of weird. What do you think about the last one where he takes that one attack from the demon and he's up in the tree, and then Mauricio goes, "You know that attack was pointless because it did nothing," and he just lifts his head up and just smiles back at the demon creepily. What do you think about that? That was amazing.
That's got to be one of the most creepy. That was one of the most creepiest smiles I've ever seen.
Oh, it was super creepy. Like Mauricio wasn't even like Mauricio was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna defeat you.
That.
So then we get through that part. And the whole time they show this off right at the beginning. They go, Hanazuka is still working on that sword. He hasn't moved since last episode. He hasn't stopped working on that sword. So that's still a plot point I love. Like that he's still working on that sword with the other guy just watching over him. So then we have the fight. And then the fight kind of goes back and forth for a bit. The upper rank demon is like, I'm going to destroy you. This is going to be easy. Then they have a little talk. And the last talk they have is that Mauricio looks at the pot and goes, this pot's not symmetrical. It don't look right. And he says it's crap. And then you hear the upper rank 5 was like, my pot's not crap. They're good. And he just gets madder and madder. And then he's just like, It's the final straw for the demon because he's like, I'm gonna. Mauricio goes at him and then he just sheds his skin, which I thought that was creepy. I know what you thought about that. That was just creepy, shedding his skin like a snake. And then he turned into his true form, which he said only 3 people have ever seen. What do you think about his true form?
So, honestly, his true form looks a lot better than that base creepy form. Especially with all the little arms that were coming out. That was just creepy. But when he comes out with actual form, I was like, okay. Down there, it looks like it's about to be a fight. But then, of course, Mauricio's like, that ain't nothing. Okay.
Yeah. Then they do this back and forth battle where he's moving like a mermaid and kind of a fish. And then Mauricio's just running around and trying to get these hits in. And then you look at the colors of the darker blue against the red, against Mauricio's lighter colors. It looked amazing. And then Mauricio does this thing where he does misbreathing. I think it's form 4, where he just kind of gets faster and faster. But it's not actually he's moving fast. It's an illusion. He's concealed. He's doing the optical illusion where you think he's one place, but he's another. I have to say this. What did you think about that optical illusion section?
Man, if you ask me, it's more so like it's meant. So slightly before then, the demon, he was like doing his own, like he was wishing around them real fast, throwing random strikes and everything. Mm-hmm. And then when he thinks he gets them, Mauricio, he goes like, okay, I can do that too. Friends of mist all around him now you can't find me. You don't really know how fast I'm moving.
Correct.
And then that's when he's like, you know what? This is what a hit is supposed to be like. So that was just epic.
Then the last part of the scene is where Mauricio gets so fast to the point where the demon can't find him. And the last thing we see is Mauricio right at the demon's neck and slices it cleanly, and the demon is dead. But he doesn't think he's dead. He thinks, you little brat, you just did something so not disrespectful and everything. And then he finally says, wait, I'm decapitated. And he's just like so distraught. I love this because it shows that he was overconfident. He was too cocky.
Yes.
So then finally, the ending thing we see, the demon's head's off. He's laying there talking to Mauricio and just says all this stuff to Mauricio. Keeps like throwing jabs. And Mauricio's finally like, you know what? I'm just going to finish you. Finish
him.
Slices him right down the middle. Then literally, it bounces, it gets in the air, and he just chops the rest of it up. And it just dissipates. My word, what did you think about that whole battle sequence from beginning to end?
So, technically, since the sequence started before then, it was like, at first it was like, all right, bro, we know you're a Hashira, so let's see what you're gonna do. But finally, once he like comes out of that bubble and he has a few realizations, he's like, wait a minute, I'm a Hashira. It's time to go ham.
Yeah, it's time to go.
And then proceeds to do just that. But I guess he did have a moment to where he had a clarity. And that moment of clarity is what when you see the Hashira clouds come on his face and everything. Yeah, that's what you know is about to get real.
Yes. Then we go from that to the guy that's holding his sword cover. And he walks up to Mauricio and goes, Are you okay? And Mauricio's like, I'm fine. And the guy goes, why are you so pale then? He's like, I'm fine. Listen to me. I'm okay. Then Mauricio falls out and starts foaming at the mouth and literally falls face first to the ground. And the guy is going nuts. Like he don't know what to do. He's trying to figure out what to do. He can't figure out what to do. And then as Mauricio's out like a light, foaming to the mouth, he starts choking on the phone. Then finally he hears a voice. Put him on his side. Okay, yes, I'll put him on his side. I love the little reveal here. So he puts him on his side. He's like, wait, who said that? Turns around and goes, how are you alive? That's a ghost. You can't be alive. You're haunting me. There's no way you're alive. You got hurt in your solar plexus. And the little kid goes, no, I'm alive. I'm fine. It was the funniest moment because it was like, if that was a ghost, he wouldn't be waving his hand at you. He wouldn't be pleading. I love how they did the comedic moment here because it wasn't after the serious battle. What do you think about that?
Man, look, that was, bro. The dude was so scared because he thought the kid was dead. I mean, honestly, we all did. So the fact that he just walks up so casually, it's like, yeah, I probably would thought you was a ghost too. Like, honestly, you look at it and try to swing this little knife at him, bro. Because honestly, man, it's like, dude. But yeah, it was good. Like, that was funny.
Well, then after that scene, we get the information how the boy survived. He said he put all the blood went to his arm, and he held the stuff against his chest. But the other reason he survived was the hilt of the Flame Hashra's sword that the younger brother of the Flame Hashra gave to him. He's holding on to it to put on the new sword for Tanjiro. So that confirms we're getting that on that sword now. But also confirms that also confirms that thing was in his possession for the longest time. Because after we saw it the first time around, like a couple episodes ago, like the second season or something like that, during the Swordsmith Village arc, we haven't seen it again. Or not the sword. We've in the Mugen Train arc, excuse me. We haven't seen it since. So that means it's been in their possession for a while. But also on top of that, I love the fact they do this little like flashback thing of Mauricio's lying on the ground, still kind of foaming at the mouth, and you see an image of Rengoku. And then it pans out, and it's the image of Rengoku and the Miss Hashira saying they're going to be Hashira together. And Mauricio starts tearing up. Because I'm guessing he really cared about Rengoku. I love this. I love it all.
Yeah, man. Like, I would love to sit down with the psychologist guy from the anime convention and really have a conversation with that.
Because it's like Mauricio cared. He cared, and also it's like, you saved my life. You didn't die, and the person I respected saved yours, basically through osmosis of this hilt. Then after this, we do a hard cut. Literally hard cut. I say hard cut, but it was pretty much a cut. Turn to a transition. Back to the other battle. We see Tanjiro trying to fight these four-headed monster things, and they're getting beat up. And then so Tanjiro tries to fight one of these monster things. The monster thing is pretty much destroying him. He tries once. He busts his eardrum. He breaks his ankle, pretty much, and foot. That looked painful. I don't know how you're still walking after that. And on top of that, like you should not be able to run or do anything. Like he's literally running after that, which I'm like, okay, fine, I get it. Then Ginda tries to shoot one, and it just regenerates. The shotgun's not doing anything now, and Nezuko couldn't really do anything herself. So then Tanjiro's like, I need to get some far away and and prepare a fight. So he does. But then this is the scene I thought was really interesting. So we go from two dichotomies. These headless things against the fish thing. These dragon heads, each time, so you sends one dragon head out and it makes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller dragon heads. What do you think about that? Because I thought that was kind of creepy.
Man, like it was a nice surprise that I wasn't expecting, man. Because I mean, it was just like those little Russian dolls. It's like, like he's thinking, if I get so far away, I got a chance. But then he comes out with this bull. Like, dude, it's like at that point, it's like, dude, I can't win. It's like, and then we see him get swallowed up, and it's like, oh, bro.
You think he's gonna die? Yeah.
Like, how's he gonna get? Well,
and you can
it's
see,
like, the main character is not gonna die, so it's like, how is he gonna get out of this?
Yeah. And you see Nezuko's face, like, I can't do nothing. Ginya's like, I can't do nothing either. And then I love how the music changes in an instant. Just Love Hashra's music. And you see the Love Hashra in the sky doing a flip, I think. And she starts running at these dragon heads and starts slicing up with her sword whip. And it just seems like she's on another roll. So then she gets Tanjiro out of there. She takes him away and she says, "Take a rest. You've done really good. You've done a very good job." Tanjiro's like, "I can't hear a thing you're saying. My eardrums are busted." and then she's like, I got this. I'll finish this off. I'm gonna save Ginya and Nezuko." Then they show us another tease of the fight where she just starts slashing up these things even more. And then ends right before after she slashes a couple, and then she's just standing, staring at upper rank 4 in his ultimate form. That ending was just amazing.
This was a well executed episode.
What do you think about that last half sequence when you see Love Hashra come in there and just kind of do her thing?
Honestly, I'm looking at it. I'm in amazement. I'm like, I'm ready to see more, because she's a Hashira too, and it's like, if she goes as ham as Marichiro, then yeah, I'm ready to see her go ham. We only saw a little tidbit.
So, you've already read the spoilers, so I'm not going to ask you anything. But I will say this. I can think of 2 ways this goes. One, we're going to get more of the Love Hashra in the next episode. That's guaranteed. 2, they're going to get Marichiro back well enough to where he can get that sword to Tanjiro. Because by that point, I think the sword is done by Hanakasuka. We get the hilt on there. And then Marichiro says, "Hey, I'm going to take the sword to him. I'll figure out a way. And y'all just get back to the village," kind of thing. And then 2,
not to mention the story is going to have the Nichiren from
because it's the old sword he's repairing to make it the Nichiren blade. Yeah. So yeah, he'll have all that. And I think 2, the other big thing from this, we'll see in the next episode. I think the Love Hashra will try everything she can to stop him, but she can't. She's going to need some help. And this is where Tanjiro comes back in that fight and just goes ham. We might not see it in the next episode fully, but we'll see the glimpse of it.
Yeah, I will not say it, but yeah.
And the other thing we forgot to mention in this episode, Michiro gets his Demon Slayer mark. By the way, that's the markings on his face from the previous episode that he got. That's like little looking cloud things on each side. So he had the Demon Slayer mark, which usually denotes that you're going to die pretty young once you get it. He's already a young kid anyway, but what would you give this episode, Chris, as a rating?
Give it a 9.3.
Ooh, okay.
All the way. I can't give it any higher because even though the show delivered everything I expected of it, it gave me everything I expected of it. Like I'm okay. I know you're gonna go ham on episodes now. Like, what are you gonna show me that's new and surprising? Which I'm sure they're kind of saving for the actual climax of the season.
Correct. I have to go. I have to agree with you. I'll say 9.4. So I'm right with you, pretty much 1 point higher, because I think that's right. You have the climax. You have 2 episodes left, basically. Is that right? Yeah, 10, 11.
It might be. It might be a part 2 to the season. We don't know.
Yeah, that hasn't been
But
confirmed yet.
or it might be. It might go up to. We know it's gonna at least hit 12.
Yes, we're guaranteed 12 probably at the most.
Yes.
What do you like? I'm like you. This climax is gonna be interesting. I want to see where it goes now. We've already finished one fight. We still have one more left. Yeah, I mean, that was Demon Slayer. That was Hell's Paradise. I do thank y'all for watching. I do thank y'all for listening. I hope you did enjoy. Tell me what you think on Twitter. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm looking forward to both episodes 10s. I think Chris is as well. Thank you for joining me, Chris, and we hope to hear from you next time. See you.